Good afternoon, boys, girls and gentlebods, and welcome back to the shed. Today it's going to be part 5 of the air rifle overhaul. Hopefully this will be the final one. Part of it will be done here in the shed, and the final part, the testing and setting up of the gun, will be done in my normal workshop where I work for a day-to-day living. So when I left you last time, I was talking about how I was going to do the cross hatching on the hand stock of the gun. I didn't opt to use the chisels that I'd got. I'll show you what I've done. I'll be honest, I've made a bit of a hash of it the first time round. Hopefully I can do better on the other side, but I'll switch to the other view and you can see what I've done, and I'll take it from there. Right, so that's where I'm at. If I bring that up a bit, you can see I didn't do a very good job on the cross hatching. The lines along the stock are a bit better, but they're not very even in width. What I used in the end was a soldering iron with a knife point on it. It worked quite well. The problem was more the user than the equipment. Maintaining a steady speed of travel, plus for the long lines I used a steel rule as a guide. And what happened, I found, was that after about an inch, the steel reel sucked the heat out of the iron, and then I actually had to slow down the speed of travel to maintain the same sort of depth of cut, if you like. So I think I need to go over those again before I turn it over and have a go at the other side, just to try and even them up. Wobbled offline a little bit with that. It's only a cheap soldering iron off eBay, and the one problem I'm coming up against is the handle gets quite hot in your hand. So there's nothing I can really do about that. I could sand it right back out, but the grooves are probably 1/2 millimetre deep, which would be taking quite a lot of wood off it. So I think I'm just going to have to accept that I botched that and leave it as it is. So we'll flip the gun over, and now I can do the other side. So I'll make a start with that groove. This is my first attempt with the chisels, the knives, and I did cut this, but again, doing it by hand, it's not a very steady job. That's a slight improvement. I think then what I can do is just a gentle sand back. That cleans it up quite nicely. Okay, I'll carry on and do this. You talk amongst yourselves and I'll come back to you when I've got a bit further. So I'm just penciling in a rough outline of where the cross hatching is going. It's not absolutely as per original, but then hey ho, it's not a super duper gun. It's not that critical that it's perfect. One of the difficulties of drawing on wood like this is the grain of the wood makes it difficult to get a straight line. So what I'm going to do is try to draw the basic pattern in freehand. Attempting to keep fairly even gaps between the lines. One of you did say about the proper tool for it, David Proctor. Thank you for mentioning the shim washer on the nut side of the loading tap. I've got that sorted. The rivet on the seal, the rivet on the piston seal washer was very easily dealt with. I didn't have any next foot oil for the leather washer, so I didn't use it. I think it will be okay. The cold bluing doesn't seem to smell, so I'm reasonably happy with that. Your mentioning of the correct tool easily ground into the end of an old file was very helpful, but A, I don't have an old file, B, I don't know what the correct tool would look like to grind it out of an old file, and I'm going with what I've got. As I've always said along with this job, it's not a fancy gun, it's not worth anything really, value wise, financially it's not worth much. 40-60 pounds perhaps on a good day with the tail in wind. So it's a bit of a fun, it's a bit of something to have a go at. It belonged to my father. That's pretty much all there is to it. So I thank you for your input, but in this case unfortunately I'm going to ignore it and just carry on regardless. Please don't be offended by that. I do appreciate all the input from all sources, but sometimes we just have to go with what we've got. Now, a proper artist would probably do these lines in one smooth, easy, fluid motion. Unfortunately, I'm not a proper artist, I'm more of a piss artist. So, it will be what it will be. And at the end of the day, this isn't going to be hanging on anybody's wall as a piece of art. The hand grip's going to be hidden inside my hand or hidden inside a gun bag. Whatever. Try that the other way around actually. It's not easy being left-handed doing that particular side. The other side was quite easy. I suppose for a right-handed person the opposite would be true. Not terrible. Now the question is, do I try and match the botch up that I did on that side, or do I try and make this side better? I'm going to go with making it better if I can. So, looking at this picture that I snatched off the internet, if that picture was generated by you, I thank you very much for it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a name on it, so I can't mention you by name. Right. Cross hatching basically goes like that. If you can see what I've got there, that's looking better than the other side. One big difference is that I drew the lines on the other side with a carpenter's pencil, which is a bit clumsy for a job like that. This time I'm using a propelling pencil with a 0.5mm lead, which is much better for doing some detailed work like this. But again, that's going to be easier for me to do it that way around. Right, this is obviously going to take a little while to get these drawn up, so we'll play a bit of music or something and I'll see you on the other side. Right, so here goes nothing. Let's see how we get on. If I can make a better job this time. Not bad. That's actually looking a bit better than the other side already. I think I'm improving very slowly. Right, I'm going to continue with that. I'll see you when I've got it all sorted. Okay, so that's the hand grip done. That's not come out too bad. That's a lot better than the other side. Once that's just been sanded off and then it's waxed and sealed, I think that will be okay. Right, I'm going to do these now and then we can see about waxing it. Well, I'm going to oil it again. It's had one coat of teak oil, so I'm going to give it another coat of that, and then when that's all dried on, I'll give it a sand back with this abrasive block. It's very fine, that's 1000 grit, and that should get it nice and smooth. And then I've got some beeswax to do the final treatment with it, and then I can put it all back together. I think I'm going to call that done. I'm going to give it a light sand with the Abranet. That's pretty good. Yeah, that is pretty ropey on that side. But that's not bad, I'm quite pleased with that. That's much better. Perhaps not as good as a professional would do, but then I'm not a professional wood carver, gunsmith, any of the above. Right, I'll give it another treatment of teak oil. I have to say that brings up the wood grain beautifully. Really comes up with a lovely rich colour. So this is nothing special, it's just Super Deck brand teak oil from the local hardware store. Just applying it with a, in this case, a paper towel. That's coming up really nicely. Ignore the woof. That was my dog just chasing next door's cat off. Yes, I rather like how that's come up. Clamp that in the vise to dry off. So there's going to be a bit of an intermission while that dries before we can do the next step, which is to buff it up with the 1000 grit sanding block, and then maybe see about putting some beeswax on it and getting a polish up. See you in a while. Right, that's had another coat of teak oil. That's largely dried. So I'm just going to give it a light sanding with this 1000 grit pad. And the reason for doing that after the teak oil is because as the wood fibres absorb the teak oil, it makes them stand up like hairs, so you get a slightly rough surface then. So once they're standing up, flat them off with a very fine abrasive and you end up with a really smooth surface. That's really quite nice. That feels really nice. Right, now the final step is a couple of coats of natural beeswax. Just rub it in with a soft cloth. You don't need to put lots of beeswax on, just rub it in. The more important is to rub in what you do put on, get it absorbed into the wood surface. And already that is starting to develop quite a nice lustre to it. Again, just as when you're sanding, go in the direction of the grain. And when you've done, just buff it off with a clean cloth. I've wandered out of camera shot, haven't I? Still. There we go. I think that looks rather good. Pop that back in the vise and let that dry off. Let the wood absorb the wax properly. And then in a couple of hours I can probably put the mechanism back into the stock and we'll have a complete gun. See you in a while. Okay, so the stock is now all waxed up, polished. That's nice. Giving it a couple of hours to settle in. One thing I remembered, that I got the sear in the wrong way up, so I'm going to swap that round and hopefully you can see that's the way it was with that to the cylinder side, so the piston would latch against that. I think it's actually supposed to latch against this, so that way up. I'm going to try it in that way and see what it's like. I'll pop that in. Line the hole up for the pin. Pop the pin in. Somebody did say a piece of tape across the other side would stop the pins going right the way through. This one has actually been staked in the past. Whether that was done at the factory or somebody else has bodged it, I don't know, but it's been staked, so the pin actually can't come right through. I can't push it through. But the piece of tape is a good solution. I'll put the cocking link back in. And now we can reunite the gun body with the stock. that. You should wind that back so the trigger isn't ridiculously sensitive. Right, let's see if that'll cock. Yep, that cocks nicely. And put the trigger guard back on it, wherever that went to. I'm sure there was a trigger guard on it. I know there was a trigger guard on it. Well, it would appear that I've lost the trigger guard somewhere in here. Not the end of the world right at this point in time, but I will have to find it or get another one. I did make a tool for doing the loading tap, just a piece of flat metal with 2 pins in it. They locate into the nut and just allow me to nip it up tight. So that's now fine. As David Proctor said, there was a washer missing, a shim washer. When I tried, couldn't get one anywhere. So I made one. Piece of nylon. That just sits on the nut. And then the nut will turn against that plastic rather than being bound up on the spring and trying to undo itself. So screw that back on. I'll have to see if I can get a trigger guard. No doubt as soon as I do get one, I shall find the original. Realistically, it must be here in the shed somewhere, but where on earth it's got to, I haven't got a clue. I've had a quick man search and not found anything. Maybe I ought to get my wife to give it a look. She usually finds things that I can't find. Anyway, that's pretty much it for now. The next step is to do a firing test. I can put the sight on, the telescopic sight. So here we go. Slacken the clamping bolts off. And get that to right. Yes, that's what's tripping me up. There's a peg there that has to locate in one of those holes, like so. That's got it. Just a question of getting the clamping plates to sit in properly into the rail. That's actually starting to look like a proper tool. Unlike me, it has been an improper tool for many, many years. That feels quite nice in the hands. I'll pop the covers back on that. And I'll pop it in its gun slip. Go the other way up. Yeah, that's better. And the next up for that one is the proper workshop where I've got room to fire it at a reasonable range, and we'll see how it performs. So that's it for now. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Okay, so as if by magic, here we are in the workshop. Now, I was going to do this tomorrow, so tomorrow should be today, but tomorrow was a normal weekday and there was too much background noise in an industrial environment. So today is now next weekend, if that makes any sense to you. So I've got the gun set up, I've got a support, I've got a target set at about 10 metres. Obviously, when I tried it tomorrow, I did do some shots with it, so this is not the first firing. I've got the sights within a few inches, which will do for now. I can trim them in better at a later date, but for now I just want to fire a few shots down, see how it performs. Here we go. Alright, that's slightly high and just on the outer ring. So I think we just need to trim those sights a little. Give that one full turn. And I'll give that one a quarter of a turn down. Let's see how that does. Alright, that's still a bit high, but to the left now. I'll back that one off half a turn. Give that one another half turn. It doesn't help matters that I'm not the steadiest hand. If I was lying prone, I could hold it really steady. Pretty reasonable at this now. Now that's low and to the right again. Trouble is, I don't know how much of it is me and how much of it is the sights that need adjusting. But I have to say it's firing well. It seems to have quite a punch on it. For an air rifle, it's got quite a big recoil, so you do need to pull it tight into your shoulder. Oh, that's nice. That's just below bull. That's just in the second ring below the bull. See if we can do that again. The cross-checking on this side, I think, has come out quite well. I quite like that. Yeah, not the other side so much. That's a little bit rough. But hey, it's a cheap gun, it's a little plinker. It'll do for a bit of fun. Right, I've got a chronograph, chronometer, whichever it is, set up. So I'll just see what speed she's firing at. This measures in meters per second. That's 123. And I'm using 15 grain. I think they're 15 grain pellets, thereabouts. So we'll do some calculations in a moment and see what sort of power it's producing. Oh, I knocked the chrono that time. So I didn't get a reading. .126. Okay, so we're in the 120 region. Seems pretty reasonable. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is weigh some of these pellets, and to get an average weight I'm going to weigh 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 10 pellets weighs 10 grams, so they're approximately 1 gram each, which I believe is about 15 grain. Yeah, I've got a unit converter on my phone. 1 gram equals 15.4 grain. If we go online, let's look for air gun power calculator. Right. Muzzle energy. Weight in grains was 15.4. Velocity in feet per second. Right, I need to go back to the unit converter and do speed, meters per second, and we were shooting 123, 126. We'll go with 123. 123 meters per second is 403.5 feet per second. So we go back to the calculator. 403.5. Wow, that's really quite weak. 5.57 foot-pounds. You can see that. Still, it's okay as a plinker. That's all it really needs to do. It's just for popping at tin cans, really. Just as well I was only shooting at 10 metres and not 25. Anyway, that will do. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.